right. Well, shalom, peace to each and every one of you. Good vibrations to all of us for the blessings that we have. Uh, I'm so thankful that we have come to this place. I don't know about each and every one of you, but uh, I am very thankful. It's been a long journey to get to this point from where I was, and I have to tell you, there's been many pitfalls along the way, and if I had one, I found it. Uh, and so I want to just speak a little bit. There's something kind of been on my heart, and I think it will be beneficial to those people that hear it and take it and use it. We're coming into all of these concepts, and if you were like me and, you know, you were raised up in Christianity and you have all this stuff you're having to work and try to overcome. And I realized that working is really probably not the word, because some of it, no matter how hard you try to overcome, you just have to allow that to be a process that happens in your life. I wish that we could will that part of our reality, that is to say that supernaturally we could just blink our eyes like Sam, and all of a sudden we change who we are. But as a person I know and love says all the time, it didn't take us a week to get here, and it ain't going to take us a week to get over it. So we're on a long process, and but along the way, wow, what a journey! What amazing stuff! How many of you, of anybody who stops by here, can answer this question? How many of you are beginning to recognize that you may be something more than just the human that you thought you were? Anybody? Because if you're here, guys, I mean, even it's not about me seeing you, it's about the acknowledgement. How amazing that is, the things that we've encountered and the things that we've learned. It just blows my mind. I was thinking earlier, I thought, you know, what's so cool is we were Christians and we had the 10 Commands and we had the rules. And I don't say that there aren't universal laws. I absolutely believe that those things exist. I do believe in the purest, simplest form that whatever you do is what you get back. If you want a bad life, live a bad life. If you want a good life, live a good life. You know, and that goes on and reverberates through every area of your life. If you want to be successful at your job, then be successful at your job. And so it often seems, you know, almost quite daunting as especially when you first start and you go, wow, I'm really messed up. But on the other side, how beautiful it is that we can recognize and come from that place to a place to where you could even say tonight that you are starting to realize that you're something more. And I'd like to talk for a second about that something more, because I think that we need to look at that something more. The reality of our journey is, friends, is that none of us have ever encountered who we truly are, at least at this realm. And so maybe you, like me, when you hear me say words like, you know, that's not who you truly are. I know that it may sound weird and archaic to most people, but honestly, we really do not know ourselves. And when you begin to just little by little get glimpses of that, and you go, well, you know, I used to think like that. Maybe anybody out there that's experienced that? You encounter a situation and you see yourself acting different than what you normally would have. Man, guys, grab a hold of that when you get it, because sometimes it seems like they're pretty few and far between. And but the reality is that we are changing, and we are growing, and we are having truth put in us. I see it everywhere. I see more now than I ever have seen in my life, and nothing else has changed except the perception of me recognizing that I am more than what I've been told all my life I was. And when you can get to that point inside of yourself and begin to find peace with yourself, it's really not an archaic statement to say to someone that, you know, I'm not really so much hung up on what other people think about me. I'm more hung up about what I think about me. And if you'll stop and think about that for a little bit, how many times have we used the old cliche, you know, I'm my own worst enemy? That is true. But I'd rather talk about the other end of the pendulum of that, and I'm also my greatest blessing. And maybe that to you seems egotistical or arrogant or wherever you're at in your understanding. But the reality of it is the start of to me, really the start of the journey is when you come to the place where you begin to find peace with who you are. Now, does that mean that you're going to be perfect? No. Does that mean that you're beginning to have consciousness? Because before then, you thought you were something else and you had no consciousness. So once again, I think that a lot of times we really miss the blessings. The blessings are the recognizing, and we are recognizing, and the world is recognizing. And yet at the same time, it seems like we have almost more chaos functioning now. And I think that's absolutely where everything is supposed to be at this point. So, but I wanted to talk a little bit about living your frequency. And I hear so much, y'all have heard me say that about, I talk to humans and they're hung up on terms, and yet it's kind of like in Christianity, the word grace. When I really found that out, I put that in front of all kinds of preachers, and none of them knew what they were really even saying, and yet they pushed it down their congregation's throat about it was grace, 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 and yet they had no knowledge of what grace even is, properly understood in the religious realm, instead of properly understood according to the Baptist doctrine. And so one of the things that I think that people struggle with is, is anything really happening, or is it just me? And maybe some of you can kind of relate to some of this. Is there really anything happening that's changing me? I mean, maybe you're not like, you haven't stepped into the bathtub with it full and you stayed up on top of the water yet, and that's good. Maybe you never will. But the reality is that doesn't have anything to do with the thing changing. And I think oftentimes that, there's kind of seems to be a mindset that lives in certain sects of spiritualism, and that is that you don't need anyone. And I think that there's going to be some people that are going to find out that there could be nothing further from the truth than that statement. We need all kinds of people in our life. The universe still put humans together. The universe still gave us feelings and emotions, and all of those things also have the other side as well. You can use them for good, or you can use them for negative. That you get to decide for yourself. But what might it mean then if we thought about the concept of becoming? I shared on Saturday about focus, and this is something that just keeps popping back up. Focus. How do I orchestrate the life that I now have learned that is possible for me if I choose it? How do I do that? How do I navigate that? How do I get to that point? Yeshua didn't have to stop and go through 29 steps to how to heal somebody. He knew how to do it. And he thought enough, the first spirit ever created, thought enough to come to the earth and put himself inside of the bondage of a human body with full knowledge of who the archons were, because he watched them build this earth. And then he came solely for the purpose of telling people. Stop and think about what I just said. He came to tell you that there's more. He came to tell you that there's a way to get there, but there's also a process, and there's also things that are tied, obligations and responsibilities to that revelation. And so what if we took an opportunity and we began to look every day at our life and every situation we encounter, ask ourselves this simple question? It's been really kind of profound for me, because I've found where I would have reacted in one way, and it's not foolproof, because I'm not foolproof. But the reality of how did that situation make me feel, and because of that, what did it do to me and what is it causing me to experience? And so if I move only according to those things, then that's bad, because I think all of us humans, if you've lived any time, you've come to a point to where you maybe more than once put yourself, because of your emotions, in a position where you ended up hurting yourself more than helping yourself. And yet at the same time, there are situations where emotions will help you, save you, protect you, whatever the case may be. But the concept of how do you, if you don't know and you're not exposed, how do you know how to get there? How do you do it? And I don't know all the answers, but I do know that the source keeps bringing this thought back to me, and that's always a good thing. So if you could begin to do what I was sharing, and it is everywhere, that your focus is everything. What you focus on is what you will create. And so I want to take that out of the Christian concept, because they used focus, but it was focused on something completely different. What I'm talking about, what if you focused on, where am I at? Am I, the situation I'm in, whether it be the people I'm around, whether it's the things I'm doing, what am I allowing these things to do to my frequency? And I think it works in multiple facets, but that seems to be the initial, one of the biggest ones, only eclipsed by the reality of what am I doing that affects my frequency. And so I know that there are people, because I've talked to them, that aren't quite sure about how does all of this stuff work. And it's never going to be something that can be explained in a couple of sentences. Some of these things are months long to get the reality of what this is going together. But I think all of us could imagine, what if we just ask ourselves, when we come into a place and we recognize dissonance inside of ourselves, when you realize you walk in a room and all of a sudden you know something's not right, if you're functioning in that psychic power, if you're over here and you somebody just invokes this strange feeling in you, well, why is that? There's always a reason. We don't always go look for the reason. And so if we will take this simple little concept of what am I doing, every day, all day long through your life, you can be adjusting your frequency. Well, why might that be important to somebody? It might be important to somebody because where your frequency sits determines what you're going to draw to yourself. So I have seen people talk about spirituality and get so unstrung that they actually lowered their frequency talking about something positive. And maybe we've all done that. But the reality of the situation is that when we begin to put our focus on things, then we get to choose what we focus on. Many of you probably have experienced, or certainly you've had friends that you experienced, that everything that they focus on is always the negative. Well, maybe that's their bent. Maybe that's the way that they see the world. And while I realize that may not be the best, there's also, unless you're given an opportunity, not really too much you can do to help someone change the person that they are. That has to come from inside. And so as I've been working this week and going through the things I've been going through, I have to ask myself, what am I letting this do to my frequency? You know, maybe you get the bad news from the job, or maybe you whatever the negative situation usually that you go through. It's amazing how much power you take back to yourself when you begin to ask the questions instead of being the one that is given an answer with no question. If you can follow me, I'm asking, what is this doing to my frequency? I can now look for myself. And I can see what it's doing. Well, a while ago I was elated and happy, and then you got the phone call about something was bad, and what happened? You lost your frequency. Okay? Who did that hurt the most? You. So in the scheme of loving ourselves first, before we can truly love our neighbors, this concept of constantly focusing on our frequency. Could you get too overboard with that? I'm sure you probably can, but my encouragement would be, well, then don't. But the truth of the matter is that if we could change every single day, and let's say if you seem to bump in the area of just hypothetically 50%, your frequency is, you've had lows down here when you're depressed, and you've had highs up here when you're standing on top of the mountain. And if you could motivate that simply by changing your focus, and you could flow at 75% frequency the major part of your day, I think anyone who's looking for the truth would go, yeah, that's a substantial improvement. Instead of, and always understanding that there's always situations that can have that effect on us. It can be an argument, it can be a disagreement, it can be, a myriad of things that can cause us to come into a place where we no longer, where we realize the dissonance, the dis-ease, the discord, the discomfort that's inside of us. And when we can recognize that that's happening, the things this person is saying, the behavior that my child is doing, anybody realize that your children can affect your energy and frequency extremely fast? The only thing I think that is faster is maybe a wife or a husband, because they are the people that typically we are the closest to. And when you're the happiest, when you're happy, you're at the happiest, and when you're saddest, you're at the saddest. And it's because we love them. People that don't have any effect on us, friends, oftentimes you will recognize that there's not really the connection maybe that you seek. People that we love should affect us positively. We have to make it be positive, even if it's not. But it's up to us to do that, and to do that, the only way we will do that is through higher consciousness. And how do you bless? How do you benefit? How do you bring on? How do you bring to light the beginning smudges of that higher consciousness? One of the ways is the very single word that I've shared multiple times over the last week or two, and that's by focus. When we focus on whatever we focus on, folks, that will enter your life. I'm watching, I'm hoping, I'm expecting. Many people are talking with all the things that are going on, that we are going to watch a shift in power, and we're going to see things that where we used to maybe want them, and if we saw them, not see them for a long time, and that we are in a season when the manifestation of the power of the monad, if you would, is being, and believe it or not, the eclipse that just happened and moving forward from here for a couple of years is going to be really profound. It's going to be profound maybe for those people that are hungry to know more about who they really are. It's quite amazing that all of the people, and that's not to get into the argument about those that are soulless. I think that has been settled, but I have to tell you, other than people's behaviors, unless God gives you some kind of a gift, I don't know how you're going to know whether this person I think we probably can tell by the behavior. That's my thoughts. If somebody constantly, it's a pretty good idea that's who that person is. And past that, I don't think we really have much power to do anything anyways. Source is going to deal with everyone exactly the same. We're establishing what we are. And so I just know that there's a lot of people, it seems like, that aren't really clear and leave themselves. And I don't want us, after having come out of Christianity's bondage, I don't want us to turn around and walk right back into another bondage. you do have all of the answers inside of yourself. But accessing all of those answers is not necessarily an easy task. And learning the things I said today, I had a thought and I wanted something, and because I am trying to consciously focus on my spirit realm, and I just said that I may not now know the practices, the steps, even the mindsets that are necessary to do the things that I would love to do for the universe, and in my personal opinion, for things that I believe the universe wants me to do for humanity. But I promise you, just because I don't know the steps now does not mean that that will be forever. And so, as with everything that there is, if you're a craftsman, the more that you do your craft and the more you study what you're doing, the more you learn, the better you get. And that functions in every area of our life, and our spiritual life is no different. Why is it profound that the spiritual realm tells everybody that everything you need is inside of you? Well, actually, I'm gonna speak a few words about that. Of all of those people who are truly light beings, consciousness, already higher consciousness, I'm not talking about the soulless ones. I'm talking about those who are the collective soul. The reality of it is, folks, is it's the exact same force in every single one of us. Think about that a second. That the same consciousness that lives in me lives in you. The same consciousness who causes water to become solid, that it can be walked on, is the same consciousness that lives in me. And so I really think I'm speaking prophetically on a level, because in my heart I hear a scream of those people who are desirous to see the things that we've been told that should be ours. When you come to that understanding that I'm not, listen, if you're here and you are carrying that stuff I talked about on Saturday, I didn't talk about what I talked about on Saturday to condemn. I talked about it to bring somebody to awakening that this is affecting you. Okay? This is affecting you. The shame that you're still carrying from your past life is affecting you. And it's very difficult when you carry that stuff to free yourself from it so that you can begin again. Okay? All of us have experienced it. You have a thought, you did something, you acted in a way you shouldn't, you said a word, or you didn't act the way you should. And as always is the case, what happens? It happens in almost every fight in a marriage there is. The fight starts, and before it's over with, somebody is dragging things from past life back into the picture, as if we didn't already have enough trouble, which is why we're having this conversation. But let's bring some more. And I'm guilty maybe more than most. That's why I can say it, because I'm good at it. But it ain't right. It ain't right. And so I desire, as we go along, I see a picture in my mind of people who are walking and you can't trip them up. It doesn't mean you can't push them. It doesn't mean you can't make them unsettled. But you can't trip them up. If we continue to seek source and walk in purity in our heart, I would like to tell you tonight that there's nothing on this earth that is more powerful than we are. The more I grow, the more I learn, the more I realize that that's absolutely the truth. And so I want to encourage you, spend some time, slow down a little bit. Slow down. If I was around many spiritual people, that would be one of the main words. Everybody is trying to impress everybody else with all the things that they supposedly got the spirit world to do for them, and yet they don't bear it out by their behavior. It can't be so. The behavior changes because of the spirit. It doesn't stay the same and create stories of these great spiritual things that have happened to me. And most of the time, unfortunately, it actually is used as a form of pride. Well, look at me. I had things you didn't have, so I must be more spiritual than you. But stop again and ask yourself, is that really true? Is that really true? And I'm going to tell you unequivocally that is absolutely not true. Because I don't believe one person will get one step further or one step behind than where they're intended to be anyways. And so we really do put ourselves in the ego place of I'm in control, which is what the ego is all about. I am in control. I am the one. I am right. And I guess if somebody desires to live there, then they will. But how amazing it might be if we desired to walk in peace and love and pay attention as we naturally grow. And so, as a new term for me, that I grow with the flow. See, it's not just enough to jump in a river of this is what spirituality is because this person told me it is. It's enough for you to jump in the river and experience the spirituality. I think that's one of the biggest things I struggled with in Christianity. Is I read the Bible a lot, and I would go read the Bible, and Jesus would tell me that greater things than I did will you do also. Well, now I understand what he was saying. The reason we will do greater things than he did is because we're part of the same collective that he's part of. We have absolutely the same exact power that Yeshua had. I'm sitting here right now, and my mind just almost gets flustered. Not in a negative way, overwhelmed, what's the term, overstimulated? Wait a dang second. What if it really is true? What if inside of each and every one of you, I don't care whether you're male, female, or anything else about any of that crap, what if inside of you really does exist the consciousness that created the universe? What the heck does that mean? What does that even mean? My mind can't grasp it. That's like, they say the ineffable one, they don't even try to put a name on the light source. They start at the monad. Why? Because you can't put an understanding to something that is so outside of understanding. And so what does it mean that I'm the power that Yeshua was? And then I asked myself, well, I want that. I want to be doing those things. When I first started reading the Bible, I went through several hospital ICU rooms waiting for people to get out of the beds. Okay, so I didn't see it then, but I have to promise you, what you focus on is inevitably what you will manifest. So all of this comes to a very specific point for each and every one of us. And I think there's a piece of it that what we can do is ask ourselves, what is it that I want to manifest? Now, I'm not talking about anything material. I want you to hear me. This is not about manifesting materially. I could care less. Okay? What I'm talking about is manifesting the Spirit on this earth for the good of humanity. See, what some may not have quite figured out yet, and very soon many people will figure it out, this awakening that's going on is for the benefit of humanity. It's a God thing. It's not a man thing. In fact, he's very well told us that timelines are going to shift and separations are going to occur. There's all kinds of stuff like that that's happening, and it is, so please listen, it is part of the move of the Spirit. So some of the things that people are recognizing are dissonant are actually dissonant because they're not in balance with Source, and he's getting rid of them. This earth is in a purging. Everybody in the Scientology world knows that this earth is in a purging, and if Edgar Casey's right, very soon we're going to see some really, really, really crazy things that are happening with the weather, as if being here in Missouri and the 18th day of February, when it normal, you wouldn't be surprised to have it 20 degrees, and I think it was 70 degrees yesterday. I don't know what it was today. It was the most glorious day there was, and of course I had a tooth pull today, so it was killing me, and the sun was just bright. That's all it was for me. I went, man, I wish this sun wasn't so bright. But brothers and sisters, we're blessed, man. That we're blessed. It's hard, and putting that, that there is any obligations or anything else, very sad for you if that's all that you're getting is the buzzwords that are being fed you from the spiritualistic realm. Not that there's not truth in them. Why am I desirous to share the Nag Hammadi text with you? Because we know that there was a man that existed that did great things, and we believed that in Christianity until it was exposed that the words that great man was saying were correct, but none of the others were. Okay? And so we end up here. What did he do? He focused. What can you do to improve your spiritual journey? Focus. You say, well, how does that play out? It means that you listen to your higher self, and your higher self will give you a thing, whatever the thing may be. Maybe it's somebody, maybe it's a situation, maybe it's a need. Maybe it's a protection. It's everything that has to do with life. But I think you should sense it. And if you do sense it, then you'll know that I need to pay attention to this. The monad has sent word through my higher self, or i.e. the collective consciousness has contacted me, that it's time for me to open my eyes and look at this. And when you do that, for a benevolent purpose, and you begin to look and say, what is it that the universe wants me to give to this situation? Sometimes it's a lot, and sometimes it's not that much at all. But the only way that you will get there is if you spend the time to focus and pay attention. I had a kind of like a vision the other day. It really shocked me. For those that have been with me and know me, this isn't totally uncommon. But it's the weirdest thing. I was sitting like on like a seat. And I remember looking down, and I would love to explain to you the feeling inside. I can't explain it. It was a feeling. But I was looking down, and my neck was kind of drooped down, and I was looking at the pain of people. And so all of us have purposes and reasons. And it was, if I can explain it like this, it's almost as if what I was watching was like inside of a ball, and I was watching the ball, but it wasn't a ball. I was watching humanity. And I cried. I began to cry for the pain that humanity is. The pain that we create for ourselves and then have to live in. When we had within us the power to be free. And so maybe it's a little hokey, maybe to somebody I'm cheesy, it's okay. Right now I could care less about whether I'm cheesy or not. I'm speaking who I am. And I hope that you'll take these words and they won't just be arcane or mundane to you. All of us that are of the light, all of us are exactly the same. We're simply experiencing the consciousness that we are individually. That's the whole nutshell. You are experiencing it. Your experiences can't be mine, and my experiences can't be yours, because that's our purpose for coming in, is for those experiences. And that's how consciousness finds itself and sees itself, if you can understand that. And learns, absolutely. So just as we're here for the purpose of learning, and so think about it. What I'm saying really is just it's all part of the package. If you study to get a degree about something, what do you have to do? You have to focus. Why? Because there's new things to learn for each and every one of you. If you're here and you recognize that you're light, then you have to begin to focus. Otherwise, you stay fragmented. The focus is what draws the completeness together. Are you hearing that? How many of you recognize inside yourself that you may be a little bit less than complete? Can I tell you, you're not incomplete. You only focus on the part that you can see. So how do you want to then rectify that? Would be to focus on that which you see with your heart, not see with your eyes necessarily. And if you see it with your eyes, that's fine too. But you can see in your mind without ever seeing anything with your eyes. And so I just, it amazed me. It was like I was sitting there and it was just like, man, it's like, wow, this is spiritual, but this isn't all fun and games. I mean, I didn't get to see psychedelic colors like I did some acid. I'm looking at humanity and I'm looking at the pain of this world, and I'm finding compassion for these people, and I'm questioning why it even has to be like that. And so by doing so, he exposed his kindness to me, because all of that caused me to focus on one of the biggest struggles that we have in humanity. And that biggest struggle that we have in humanity is fullness, wholeness, and peace and happiness. We live either halfway lives. Of course, our avatars are living the other half. And if you don't believe that the avatar concept is real, friend, I hate to tell you, the avatar concept is very real. We are taught how we are, what we are, who we are, how we think, what we think, and we're programmed with that our whole lives until we say, I'm not following the programming anymore. Well, just so you know, it's probable that you focused on some things and they led you to that change. Why am I hammering on this focus thing? Because really in our lives, the only thing that are important is what we're interested in. And without, there's many others besides me that understand this concept for sure. But dear friends, there is nothing that isn't available to us. You say, well, how do you know that? Why don't you have a house like Donald Trump's, and why don't you drive a new car? I'm wondering when any of those things ever made someone spiritual. See, even in those concepts, what would you rather have? I would rather have the peace that I have than I would to have all the money of every billionaire in the world. Would I have any problems enjoying the billionaire's money? Absolutely not. But if I had to choose one or the other, I would rather have what I've found inside over all the external materialistic things you can ever possibly find. You can't buy enough to be happy. You have to find that inside of you. And once you begin that journey, yeah, it's like, well, there's many old Texas sayings that it would be like, but I better not say them. But the truth of the matter is, dear friends, is it is available to us. When we focus, when we continue to walk, believing and knowing that you're here for a purpose, Source loves you, you were before the earth was. You ever stop and ponder that? Sometimes maybe you need to take a time of focusing who we are. Think about that. Yeshua said that all of us humans were before the earth ever existed. Do you know that we don't know? They think, 40 billion, 400 billion years this earth has existed, and you have two? You might be sitting there going, you're full of crap right now. Well, I get it. I understand how a person might come to that. But I hate to tell you, friends, that the truth tells me that we have been for a long time. Now, you can argue about the semantics of how many, whether it's, I don't think for me, 40 billion or 400 billion, what's the difference? Right. It just really doesn't matter at that point. But I just felt like that I needed to share that there's some people maybe out there who are struggling. You want to do right. You are learning things. You are seeing changes in yourself. And I'll tell you, it's nice to have people say, I see that you're different. But I'll tell you, the nicest thing is when, not in pride, but in peace and authenticity of knowing, beginning to know who you are. My goodness, there's some amazing peace that comes out of that. You know what? All of the masks get ripped off when you just begin to be that hidden person that lived inside of you, the one that they forced away, the one that they told to shut up, the one who said you need to be a man and you need to be mean and you need to, or you needed to be a woman and you needed to be like this. Those are all the mask. Instead of, what if as a society, I think this will be an outworking of it when humanity continues to elevate. But what if people just genuinely cared about each other? Do you think this world would be different? If Donald Trump went and sat with Vladimir and Xi Jinping, and they had a cup of coffee together sitting at a table and said, look, guys, we're powerful. We have the ability to destroy this earth if we choose to do so. What are we going to do? Wow, could you imagine the wonder that could come out of that mindset? Well, peace. I don't know that story will ever manifest. It'd be great if it did, but I don't know that it will. But I can tell you right now that every one of us can have that situation manifest in our life every day. And you can do it without having the Vlad or the Xi Jinping sitting at the table. Because each one of us have the power inside of us to ask ourselves, what is it that I choose to create today? Am I going to choose chaos? Am I going to choose unhappiness? Am I going to choose suffering? Am I going to choose stress? Am I going to choose anxiety? Or am I going to choose peace? And if you answer that consistently, that which you focus on is what you will bring to yourself. And all of a sudden, before long, you'll find yourself conquering things that maybe have affected you your whole life, like anger. Is there time to use anger? Absolutely. And there's a whole bunch of people out there that you're bad vibes if you're honest about a situation. Well, I disagree, and I disagree because of the one that I follow. And the one that I followed understood that emotions were given to us to use. It's up to us to choose how to use them, whether we use them for the good. And sometimes fussing at somebody is for the good, not for the bad. So I wish that it was all loving, kind, and oozy-goozy, but I've noticed a lot of those people aren't having really very much success. And they're typically the ones that are telling you about the mushrooms they ate and how many colors they saw. We don't have to have that. It's okay if it happens, but if that's your picture of what it takes to be an enlightened human, friend, you're going to be sadly disappointed, because that has nothing to do with enlightenment. So I hope you guys will be blessed by this. I hope some of you will take it and maybe he's got something there. And I hope you'll begin to focus on, what do you want? If you just spent 5 minutes every morning, okay, so you're not a meditator, there's not time in your busy schedule of universality that things that will exist forever matter. But if you would just give yourself a kindness and give yourself 5 minutes and ask yourself today, what do I want to create? What am I going to be today? Am I going to be an amazing person that's loving and kind and forgiving and merciful and understanding like I'm usually not? Or am I going to be what I usually am? And it's really amazing. That's 5 minutes. Just to ask yourself one question. Who am I going to be today? Am I going to be the self with all of the programming? Or am I going to be what inside of my heart, without ever having somebody said a word, I have a knowing of who I am? I hope you are experiencing that knowing, because I have a feeling the people that have the knowing, their knowing is the same as all the other people who have the knowing, and they know where they came from. And so if that is you, amazing, continue on, please do. Help some people along the way. And if it's not you, then continue to focus, and it will manifest itself. So I hope you guys will be blessed. I hope I didn't bore anybody, but I've got enough people that know that this is a massive journey. We are not weak people because we are trying to do what nobody else cares about. It's amazing. Just the sheer fact that if you are seeking the truth, and just the sheer fact that you're that, speaks volumes about who you are. And so Take those things. Be kind to yourself. You're gonna be with yourself for quite some time, in case you didn't know. Just think about that. Remember the old Christian spiritual song? When we've been there 10,000 years. Yeah. Well, can I give you the new revelation about that? When I've been everywhere for a billion years. Not that the song didn't invoke hugeness, because it did. What I'm trying to say is that the reality of the hugeness is infinitely larger than we understand. Be kind to yourself. And because you love yourself, love somebody else. We'll be back on Saturday. I hope you guys will take that, use it, and be blessed by it. Shalom and namaste.